Alright, so Shovel Knight is a pretty good game. I mean, you got shovels, you got knights, there's some quarters in there somewhere. I mean, it's pretty solid for the most part. I mean, it's got its ups and downs, and then again, what game doesn't? I'd go as far to say Shovel Knight's probably one of my favorite games of all time now, seeing as it's just one of the best made games I've ever played. And it's up there, you know, with all the greats like Zelda, Wind Waker, Kingdom Hearts 2, Xenoblade, and you can't forget about Bat Rats. Now, one of the best parts about Shovel Knight is that the developers during the Kickstarter of the game had some incentives for playable characters, and one of them was Plague Knight. One of the cooler bosses in the game. He's got a plague mask, he throws bombs and stuff, and everything explodes, so what wrong can go there? This update was released to decent acclaim. It was under the title of Plague of Shadows, and I gotta say, it was pretty darn good, even though very little people talked about it. But you know, I can't complain. If I want people to talk about something, I just gotta do it myself. I can't just sit around here like yelling at people for not talking about something that I like. I gotta take initiative, you know? So, mindless rambling aside, I guess it's about time we talk about Shovel Knight, Plague of Shadows. So, the story of the previous game was just your shovel dude and you gotta go save Shield Girl and you gotta go kill quarter dudes. It's pretty simple and it's, you know, reflective of the NES style where things weren't as complicated and didn't have these major stories. Now, much like the simplicity of the Shovel Knight story, the Plague Knight story is pretty simple. This time around, it starts off the game telling you the story of Plague Knight, a member of the Order of No Quarter, who has other intentions of creating some sort of potion of non-specified power of awesomeness, in which he wants to get, but he has to do something involving collecting essences of the Order of No Quarter. It's not too well explained, but you know, it works for what it is. It's a simple game, and it doesn't need a very complicated story. So with that story set up, the game follows you going around defeating these Order of No Quarter, which are basically the same bosses as before, just you have different gameplay to work with this time around. And there's a new boss in the form of Shovel Knight, seeing as, you know, Plague Knight you can't fight as himself, so you gotta fill it in with something, and Shovel Knight's there, so you know, it works. Now you go through the levels, killing enemies, collecting gold, getting upgrades, you know, the same thing as Shovel Knight really, but what the real difference is the gameplay. Now, the gameplay of the original story just kind of involved you going around, hitting things with your shovel, pogo jumping, the best part. And you know, it was pretty simple, straightforward, it was more skill-based than mechanics-based, and it worked really good. Now, the game still is heavily reliant on your skills above most things, but it does put a lot more emphasis on the mechanics of the game. Now your main method of attack this time around is potions instead of a shovel, in which they explode when you throw them, and you can change their effects by exchanging cipher coins for different things you can do with them. Like when you throw them in one of them, the throw becomes more like long and arching, and then another one, you get to throw a bunch of them, they lump together and make a cool explosion out of 3 of them. And then, you know, shorter fuses, longer fuses, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool, and you can change between all of them on the fly, between the menus and stuff. So it helps dealing with different situations. And since the level design was so reliant on platforming in the previous campaign, they decided that instead of changing the entirety of the levels to accommodate for the new playstyle, they'll build the new playstyle around the levels. They do this in the most obvious way by letting you charge up your potions, in which you can do to make a giant burst shot that sends you flying in the air, and you get to choose different effects on how you fall. Like the best one is how like, you float down slowly, and it's a lot safer when you're platforming and stuff. Another thing made pretty much immediately obvious is that now you have the ability to double jump, and a lot of the platforming is based on when to burst, when to double jump, and kind of propelling yourself in the air by throwing potions and stuff. And it's just so it's easier to just play and experience than explain, but trust me, it works pretty well. Now, most of everything else that was experienced in the Shovel Knight playthrough is back here in the Plague Knight playthrough, except they're a little bit different for the most part. One example of this is the return of items that you can collect by scavenging levels and finding certain chests, except in this game, you'll find the items from the previous one, dispose of them as trash, and trade them in for more useful items for Plague Knight. One example is that instead of getting the extremely useful propeller dagger you get in the Shovel Knight playthrough, which propels you, you know, through the air and stuff, this time around you'll get a regular dagger that you can slash a lot with. It's a lot better than it sounds, trust me. Another example is instead of getting a traditional fishing rod this time around, you get like a bomb, like sort of bomb chew style from Zelda, where like you throw it and it goes and explodes wherever it touches, but if it falls into a fishing pit, like money or something will pop up, and that's pretty cool and unique. The game does a lot more little things like this, like the armor that you were previously able to get as Shovel Knight, you can still get as Plague Knight, although the effects are slightly different this time around, and it's really just fun to go in the game, experience all the new changes for yourself, honestly. And so aside from gameplay, what they changed was obviously the music. Well, they didn't change most of the music, but they did add some new music, and this is only notable because of how amazing the original Shovel Knight soundtrack was. And the new tracks aren't as good in my opinion as the original soundtrack, but they still hold their own as really good songs. Now the game, much like the original playthrough, is geniusly built around the difficulty instead of having you have multiple difficulty options, with the exception of New Game Plus. And so they can cater the levels around a constant growth of difficulty at a decent rate, and it's really refreshing seeing as a lot of indie games generally just have a bunch of difficulty ranging from this is way too easy to what the hell am I doing, there are bullets everywhere. Presentation is pretty much the same as the original playthrough. I mean, you got it's all the sprite-based art, it looks like an NES game, it's the whole shtick with most games now, and it works, it looks really nice, and the sprite work is just gorgeous, and the music complements it, as I already said, it's really good. It supplies a nice upbeat NES type feel, and the game looks great, it sounds great, no complaints there in like any way. Now, as far as problems with the DLC or update or whatever you want to call it, is that some of the levels don't translate perfectly to the new gameplay, and it supplies unnecessary difficulty just because it wasn't built for the type of gameplay you're using. And while it's very few and far between these moments happen, it is very frustrating when it does, when there's one jump or something that you can't make just because the way the level's made doesn't work right, and it's just super annoying. Another complaint is that even though I got the game for free, so I shouldn't be complaining about it since it was an update on already established content, which is amazing, is that there wasn't too much variety in terms of changing things up from the original playthrough. It's the same levels, same music, same bosses. It's just really like samey from the original playthrough, although again, I can't complain about it. It was a free update, it's just something I'd like to note. Honestly though, those few complaints don't mean anything because this is a really good game. The positives heavily outweigh the negatives, and this isn't talking about the original Shovel Knight, this is talking about Plague of Shadows, but it also counts for the original Shovel Knight, I guess, because that's also a really good game, and maybe I'll talk about it some other time, but I just wanted to talk about Plague of Shadows because no one else really did, honestly. I mean, a few people did, just not nearly as many as there should have been. Now, I don't know if you want to call this a review or not, seeing it was just kind of me talking about the game without any real constructive points or criticism necessarily, but I just kind of wanted to talk about it since, again, not many people really did, and it was fun, so you know, why the hell not? So with all that said, I guess if you like, you can just kind of subscribe or something, I don't know, I'm just doing this for the hell of it. But I'm probably going to post more stuff in the future if this gets a positive reception or if I just feel like it, so if you know, it'd be cool. It'd be a nice little gesture, I guess. Now, I guess that's all I have to say, so see you next time. I had fun making this, so I'll probably make some more stuff, and if you want, leave a like or something, it'd be nice. It's some positive feedback, and I guess if I do make more, I'll see you next time. Bye, people.